We are here today, September 28, 2006, at 3:08 p.m. for the videotape deposition of Rony Joel, located at Collier Reporting Service, 3447 Pine Ridge Road, Naples, Florida, in the case styled Citizens Advocating Responsible Environmental Solutions Incorporated, plaintiff, versus the City of Marco Island, Quality Enterprises USA Incorporated, William Moss and Rony Joel, defendants. The videographer is Michael Sturdivant. The court reporter is Sarah Reynolds. Would counsel state their appearances for the record?
Samuel Gold, counsel for plaintiff.
Maggie Mooney, I'm here on behalf of the City of Marco Island, William Moss and Rony Joel.
David Jackson here for City of Marco Island, William Moss, Rony Joel.
Stanley Bonner on behalf of Quality Enterprises.
Would the court reporter swear in the witness?
Sir, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the whole truth?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Joel. Could you state your full name for the record, please?
A. Rony Joel,
And what is your date of birth?
1/15/50.
Okay. And Mr. Joel, where are you currently employed?
City of Marco Island.
And what do you do for the City of Marco Island?
I'm the Public Works Director.
And how long have you held that position?
Approximately 2 years.
Okay. Are you familiar with a contract with a company by the name of Quality Enterprises to perform work along South Collier Boulevard?
I am aware that we are under contract for them to do the work under South Collier.
Okay. And can you explain to me what type of work they're doing or have done?
They have done both utility work and road work. Utility work, underground water and wastewater, pipe replacement, and road work, road and landscaping replacement.
Has their work on, QE's work on South Collier Boulevard involved removal of asbestos cement pipe?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have any reason to believe that the removal of the pipe was that it was mishandled?
Object to the form.
No.
And what leads you to making that assertion?
Because I've not been advised by anyone that that has occurred.
Have you looked into it yourself?
No.
Why not?
I depend on a consultant who is charged with ensuring that the project documents are adhered to, as well as we have a construction manager who is looking at quantities and takeoffs for payment purposes.
Okay. What's the name of the consultant that you're referring to?
Kimberly Horn.
Okay. You've never had tell me, to what extent have you had conversations with officials of not AMRC, of QE with respect to removal of asbestos cement pipe?
Object to the form.
Object to the form.
Could you please repeat the question?
Yeah. To what extent have you had discussions with officials of QE regarding removal of asbestos cement pipe from beneath the streets of South Collier Boulevard?
Object to
Same
the form.
objection.
None.
Never once.
Not that I recall.
Okay. And tell me, what was the name of this consulting firm again? I'm sorry.
Kimberly Horn.
Oh, right. Did you ask the consulting firm to look into how Quality Enterprises was handling asbestos on South Collier Boulevard?
No.
Did you have conversations with that particular consulting firm as to how asbestos was being handled in South Collier Boulevard?
Object to the
I
form.
don't recall.
Object to form.
You don't recall, okay. You've read the newspaper over the past 9 months. There have been stories about alleged asbestos contamination on Marco Island. Are you aware of such newspaper articles?
I'm aware, I can't say that I've read them.
Okay. As Public Utilities Director, did you look into the situation when you learned that there was talk that there could be asbestos contamination on the island? What did you do?
Object to the
If any-
form.
Form.
It's too broad of a question. I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay. You said that you've heard about reports that there was asbestos contamination on Marco Island. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. What specific action, if any, did you take in response to those reports?
I engaged an environmental engineering firm. I recommended to the city manager that the city engage an environmental engineering firm to assess the validity of those reports.
Okay. And and this environmental firm, what's the name of the firm?
AMRC.
Okay. Did AMRC indicate to you whether any of the did AMRC do testing of the AC pipe for you?
Object to the
Do you know if they
form.
actually tested the pipe itself
Object to the form.
Objection. Lack
for
of foundation.
for asbestos content?
I don't recall if we asked them specifically to test or to validate that there is asbestos cement, asbestos concrete pipe on the island. I am aware that, and I was aware, that there is asbestos concrete pipe on the island, throughout the island, before the papers indicated that there was.
You were aware of it before?
I was aware that there is asbestos cement,
Okay.
asbestos concrete pipe
Okay.
on the island.
Did you disclose that to Quality Enterprises prior to Quality becoming your contractor?
Yes,
You did, okay. Did you ever ask Quality Enterprises if they were licensed for that type of work?
Object to the form.
Object to the form as well.
the means of my communicating with Quality and all the contractors that responded to the bid documents was, in the bid document, it specifically stated that there was asbestos cement pipe. So I did not verbally communicate with them, but in writing, the contract document specifically indicated that there was asbestos cement pipe. There was a specific bid item to dispose of that material.
Okay, now my question was, not that was the question before, but my last question was, were you aware, prior to the signing of the contract with QE, whether or not QE had a valid license to handle asbestos cement pipe?
Object to the form.
I was not aware if they did or did not have, or did they need to have.
Did you inquire, did you look into whether they needed to have it?
The types of licenses that were required were reviewed and recommended by the consulting firm that developed the bidding documents.
Did you question the consulting firm about the licensing status of QE?
No.
Do you know if anybody, any agent of the city, including any consultants, ever asked of QE if they had a valid license to handle asbestos cement pipe?
Object to the form.
I'm not aware if anyone's, I'm not aware that anyone specifically asked as you've phrased the question,
Okay. Including yourself, right?
including myself.
And why wouldn't you ask?
Because the licensing requirements to perform the work was included in the bid documents that was prepared for bidding.
Okay. And did those bid documents have any licensing requirements?
Yes, they do.
And QE submitted a bid document, is that right?
Yes, they did.
Did you review it?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And did you...
Let me answer
Yes.
it. I reviewed certain phases or portions of the submittal.
Okay. Did you review what kind of licenses QE had at the time?
I do not recall that I specifically reviewed if they submitted the appropriate licenses or not.
Do you know if anybody else at the city made such a review as to the licenses?
I presume the purchasing manager did.
And who's that?
Bob Creighton.
Okay. But you presume it, you don't know that for sure, is that right?
Before making a recommendation to Mr. Morse to execute the contract, I did inquire if all of the bid requirements have been fulfilled by quality, and I was assured that they were.
By Mr. Creighton.
Yes.
Is there any anything in writing that confirms that?
Object to the form.
I don't believe so.
Join.
Okay. All right. Okay. The Glon property, Site A. Let's start with Site C. Glon Site C. There was a remediation project on that property earlier this year, is that right?
That's correct.
And what was that remediation project for?
It was to remove what appeared to be asbestos concrete pipe fragments spread across a defined area.
Okay. That appeared to be, notice that word, appeared to be. Do you have any reason to doubt that those fragments were of asbestos concrete or asbestos cement pipe?
They
Object to the
appeared,
form.
they appeared to have been fragments of of asbestos concrete pipe, but there was no sampling specifically done to validate that.
Has the Florida Department of Environmental Protection shared with you any sampling that they've done?
They have shared, yes, they have. I don't recall if it was where those samples came from.
And did those samples that they shared with you show the presence of asbestos in the pipe?
It validated that the sample that they sampled did contain asbestos fibers as expected if that was an asbestos concrete pipe.
Okay. And the remediation of Site C, how large an area of Site C was remediated?
Object to the form.
I'm going to estimate approximately 30 to 40% of the total Site C site.
Okay. Who made the decision to authorize the remediation of Site C?
I recommended to the city manager that the most conservative approach and expeditious approach was to look at this as it is, as a contaminated area, and move forward with securing the area and remediating it.
Okay. And do you know the approximate size of Site C?
No, I don't, by acres, by square feet, by what?
Whatever unit of measurement you can comfortably give me an estimate.
I've never measured it, so I can't answer that.
Okay. Do you know how much material was removed from Site C during the remediation?
I don't recall a specific volume of material.
Are there records in possession of the city that would indicate what those volumes were?
Yeah, we've received a report from the consultant that's available.
Public record?
Public record
Yeah.
available.
Yep. Has the Florida Department of Environmental Protection ever raised the issue of asbestos fragments being present at Site A?
Yes.
Okay, and you have responded to them how?
Object to the form.
Same objection.
We've advised them that that site is, that we are surprised that there is any fragments in Site A. We're unaware where it came from, and have not had an opportunity to go through the whole pile, the debris pile, to determine its source.
So you do acknowledge that there is, that there are some asbestos fragments there. Is that your testimony?
There is
form.
evidence. There is evidence that there is some fragments of asbestos concrete pipe in the debris pile.
Okay. Do you know how those, how that came to be? How did the fragments come to be? Do you know?
It's a mystery to us.
Does the city own Site A?
Site A is a part of what is the city acquired a few years ago.
So the city owns it, right?
Yes.
Okay. What have you done to investigate the source of these asbestos fragments on Site A?
I have asked our attorneys to have AMRC sample the pile.
Okay. And how has sampling of the pile helped determine the source?
It has not.
Outside of sampling the pile, have you taken other activities to determine the source?
Have I taken any other activity to determine the source? I have asked our construction manager to help to try to determine where that may have come from. And that's what I've done.
And what has he come back with any information?
Object to the form.
Construction manager, let's say, who is that?
Michael Daniel.
Okay. Has he come back to you with any information?
He's unable to identify the source.
How many times have you meeting or spoken with Michael Daniel about this issue?
Which issue?
The source of the asbestos fragments.
Object to the form.
We meet 3 to 4 times a week, talk about every issue on the project and other projects. So I really can't recall how many times we spoke about this issue. Specifically, how many times we spoke about it.
More than once.
I'm sure more than once.
Okay. You say how many times a week do you meet with him?
It varies 3 to 4 times a week. Sometimes we meet 3 to 4 times a day.
Okay. Did this meeting schedule start at the time the asbestos fragments were discovered, or has that always been the way you've interacted with Mr. Daniel?
Always, from the beginning of the project, since he's been the city employee.
Okay. Is Site A currently being watered down? The sprinkler's up and running, I guess.
Currently.
Object to the form.
Currently, as we sit here right now. Do you know?
I don't know that answer.
What are the standing orders with respect to the sprinklers? Are they supposed to be up and running 24/7, or are they run on an as-needed basis? Tell me the protocols that are being followed there.
Object to the form.
Same objection.
We are following the guideline that our consultant recommended, and I don't recall what they are right now.
Okay. The sprinkler system, when was that installed?
Object to the form.
And I'm talking at the Glon Property
yeah,
site,
yeah.
Site A. Yeah.
Gosh, I don't.
I mean, a month or season of year.
Yeah, I'm trying to recall, because we were concerned about, there's a lot of truck traffic in and out, and we were concerned with dust control that was occurring because of the vehicle traffic. So I know we required the contractor to water the site. I don't recall if they put the sprinklers on last year after we started with the site, or they were using trucks. I don't recall exactly when that actually the sprinkler system was put in.
Okay. Who made the decision to go from using trucks to water it down to using a sprinkler system?
I don't recall who made
The
that
farm.
decision.
Would have it been an official of the city?
I don't know if that was, or if it was. We were pretty much complaining to quality almost on a daily basis of the dust control management, and I don't recall if they chose to put the sprinklers in to better manage it, or if we directed them. I don't recall.
Okay. Do you know if the sprinklers were installed before or after the DEP raised questions about possible asbestos contamination at
Object.
Site A?
Object to the form.
I don't recall.
Join.
I don't recall when that occurred.
Okay. Anybody at the city who would have more knowledge about that issue than you?
I would expect Mike Daniel to know.
Okay. Do you know where the material on Site C came from?
No. Oh, excuse me. We have surmised that it came from Site A.
Okay.
At
And
least,
how,
at least the material that we removed.
okay. And how did it end up from originally being on Site A to ending up finally on Site C? Do you know
Object to
how?
the form.
We,
I mean, who moved it?
Object to the form.
okay, you have two questions. How,
Let me withdraw that one. Just say who moved it from Site A to Site C?
Object to the form.
I've been advised that Quality moved material from Site A to Site C under the city's request.
And who, and identify the person, please, who made that request?
Object to
McDaniels.
the form.
Okay. Do you know if it was, if the material, I'm talking about the asbestos cement pipe material, whether it was moved in sealed canisters from Site A to Site C?
Object to the form.
I'm not aware of how the material was moved from one location to another. And we
Who at
are
the
su-
city would be?
Well, the
If it
city,
wasn't you, who would know that?
that would be the construction manager on the site.
Mr. Daniel?
That or the consultant if he was there.
Were they, do you know if the material was transported from Site A to Site C in dump trucks?
No,
What vehicle was used?
Object to the form.
we were anticipating a hurricane, and we had a large debris of a large pile of wood chips, and the wood chips were large pieces, not like wood chips you use for mulch, but large pieces of wood. We were concerned about them being projectiles, so Mike had asked Quality to take some of the concrete pipe that they were storing at Site A staging and move it to stabilize the wood chip pile. We are presuming that the labor force, as they were moving concrete pipe, inadvertently may have also taken some asbestos cement pipe that was being staged by them for disposal that was in the heat of that hurricane was inadvertently transferred to Site C.
So, are you telling me that the transfer of the material to Site C with respect to the hurricane was a mistake?
No,
Object to the
I
form.
don't think.
Because you said inadvertently. Could you expand on that?
I think inadvertently the contractor may have taken some pieces of asbestos concrete pipe that was being staged for disposal as a part of the balance of concrete pipe that we had asked that be placed over the wood chip pile.
Okay. You mentioned that there was asbestos cement being stored on Site A. How did that asbestos cement pipe get to Site A?
Object to the form. Mischaracterizes the testimony.
I personally don't have any first-hand knowledge how it got there.
Have you heard from others how it got there? What have you been told?
I've never inquired how it got there.
Okay. Why not?
It was not a concern
Okay. Why wasn't it a concern?
because it is a component of the contractor's responsibility with means and methods on how to properly execute the contract.
But isn't the city ultimately responsible for what happens on its own property?
Object to the form. Calls for a legal conclusion.
I think the city is ultimately, obviously it's the city's property. If someone abuses that property, is the city still responsible for that? That's a legal opinion, I think, that I'm asked to answer. I don't know that answer.
You don't know the answer. Okay, that's fair enough. Sometimes we attorneys don't know all the answers to legal questions either. Was Site A ever approved by the Environmental Protection Agency or the Florida Department of Environmental Protection as a asbestos storing site?
Object to the form, lack of foundation.
Foundation is,
Another
he
word.
did say it was stored there. He used the-
Foundation is, you haven't even asked him if he's had any contact with EPA.
Just answer the question.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Madam Court Reporter?
Was Site A ever approved by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection as an asbestos storing site?
Not that I'm aware of.
What about by the EPA?
Not that I'm aware of.
What about Site C? Has it ever been approved by the EPA or the FDEP as a storage site for asbestos?
Object to the form.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Who at the city would be aware of that, if not you? Who would be aware of those details and could give me a yes or no answer on that? Do you know of anybody with more knowledge than yourself?
No. I should know, but I don't recall.
Would be somebody on your staff?
If we submitted for an application, I would be aware, but I don't recall I'm not aware if the consultant submitted one on our behalf or not. I know that city staff did not submit an application for storing of asbestos material if one is required.
Sure. Now, if the consultant submitted an application, would that be a public record that we could get from City Hall?
Correct. If an application was submitted,
Okay.
it would be there.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Joel, you were here during Mr. Moss's.
I'd like to, can you go back to the last question again, please? Because I don't think I answered the question.
If the consultant submitted an application, would that be an application we could get from City Hall?
Okay, yeah, okay.
All right. You were here for Mr. Moss's deposition, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And do you recall where I played a video, two videos for Mr. Moss to look at and comment on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were you able to hear what was said on those videos, or do you need me to play them again to refresh your memory? I don't want to play them if I don't have to, but it's up to you, whatever you
I
want.
prefer you do.
Sure I do. Okay, great. Again, we're entering in, well, we're not entering a new exhibit. We're using, well, yeah, we'll call it a new exhibit, Plaintiff's Exhibit A, because it's a different deposition.
asbestos.
There's no asbestos there, I hope.
They were storing asbestos cement pipe that they took before they took it to the landfill.
They weren't chopping it up, though.
No.
You're not told.
Let me rephrase that. They were crushing it to flatten it, which is, this material is not friable, it's not hazardous, it does not need to go into a hazardous waste landfill. It's acceptable the way we handled it.
Okay, because you'll still have more of that, right, coming up when you do North County.
When we remove
I'm sorry, we can't hear the answers to the questions we're asking. Thank you.
as we remove the old storm sewers, yes, they get removed, they get squashed, and then they're taken to a landfill.
Just want to make sure there's nothing hazardous going
There isn't. It's not friable, it's not airborne, it doesn't go into the airborne environment, it's not ingested.
Okay.
I'm going to object on the grounds of hearsay, but
Okay. Is that you there in the video?
A lot heavier, but yes.
Okay. You know what? You have lost some weight. All right. Okay. Is there anything that you just said, that you said in that videotaped excerpt, that is incorrect?
I think as I heard that, I think I said two things. That one is that asbestos concrete pipe was taken to Site A for storage, and that storm sewer pipe was being recycled at Site A.
And you're saying that those statements were incorrect?
No, I'm saying that's what I said. And
That's what you said.
Those are correct.
Those are correct.
Correct.
All right. Asbestos cement site was taken
Asbestos concrete pipe was taken
from Site A
to Site A for storage.
to Site A for storage.
I said
Okay.
that, and the second thing I said is that storm water pipe, storm sewer pipe, was taken to Site A and recycled.
All right. Now, the AC pipe that was taken to Site A for storage, was it stored in a building? Was it just laying outside? Describe for me the storage situation out there at Site A.
I don't recall how it was stored. I knew it was taken to Site A. I don't recall how it was stored at Site A.
Did you ever go out and look at it, see how it was being stored?
I've been to Site A on a number of occasions, and I saw a lot of pipe being stored. I don't recall.
How was that pipe being stored anyway?
The pipe that I saw that was
I'm
being
going to
stored
object to the form.
was stockpiled.
Out in the open air?
Yes, the pipe that I saw.
Okay. Do you know whether or not that particular pipe was AC pipe?
No, I do not.
Okay. Are you aware of any structures, any buildings used for pipe storage for AC pipe?
No.
Are you aware of any other means of storage?
Well, I am aware that the disposal required it to go into containers. I don't know. I don't have first-hand visual knowledge if it was stored in the dumpsters or not.
Okay. Containers. When you mean containers, you're talking about trash dumpsters or special containers for
Again,
asbestos?
I've not personally seen how the pipe was handled at Site A.
So when you talk about containers, you're not even sure whether any of the AC pipe was in a container or not. Is that your testimony?
Ultimately, I know it was because it had to be transported to proper disposal, so it had to go into a container.
A sealed container?
A container.
A tightly sealed and labeled container labeling what was inside?
Whatever is regulatory required.
Object to the form.
Okay. And you're making this statement that you were sure it was done based on what knowledge?
That no one had indicated to me that they improperly handled the transport of the pipe for disposal.
Do you honestly expect somebody to come to you and say, I improperly handled it?
Object to the form.
Well,
Argumentative.
we have
Speculative. Continue.
we have a consultant and we have a construction manager that would advise me if something was being done improperly.
And how do you know that they're 100% reliable?
Object to the form as well.
I have a lot of confidence in the people we've hired.
And can you verify for me today that it was properly handled, the asbestos was properly transported and stored?
Object to the form.
Based on your confidence in these people,
Object to the form.
which you've just testified to, can you verify for me today that the asbestos was properly transported and stored?
Object to the form.
I have
Same
no
objection.
knowledge that it was not properly transported.
The question is, can you verify it, yes or no?
Object to the form.
Same objection.
Can I verify? I've got confidence. Nobody's told me that it was improperly. I can verify that no one has told me that it has improperly been handled.
But you don't know for a fact whether it's been properly or improperly handled, isn't that right?
That's
Object to
correct.
the form.
Thank you.
Form.
Now, in the videotape excerpt we just talked about, you talked about they were crushing it to flatten it, and there's no risk because it is not friable. What are you talking about as being not friable?
If the asbestos concrete pipe is properly handled and crushed, and there are specific procedures to do that, it is not friable material. It does not release airborne fibers
If it is properly crushed.
when it's properly handled.
When it's properly handled. And do you know for a fact that it was properly handled?
I was
Object to the
advised that
form.
it was.
I'm sorry?
When I inquired about it, I was advised that it was.
Who told you that?
Mike Daniels.
And when did Mike tell you this? Before or after the EPA became involved? Or not the EPA, the DEP became involved?
I don't recall that.
Was it before you made your statement at the city council meeting that we just looked at on video?
No, I don't recall. I don't recall the specific time frame.
Okay. Well, you said they were crushing it to flatten it, but you weren't there, right?
That's correct.
I'm just wondering, you said that on the video, and you also said it's not friable. I just want to know who you heard that from.
Well, I asked Mike Daniels to explain to me how Quality was handling the pipe. I then spoke to Bruce Weinstein, who's a chemical engineer, a hazardous waste engineer, described to him...
Who does he work for? I'm sorry.
He works for the city.
Mm-hmm.
Asked him, since he had done a fair amount of work with asbestos before joining the city, and he'd indicated that those were the proper procedures.
And you talked to, is it Dr. Weinstein?
That's correct.
You talked to him before this particular city council meeting that
That's
we just
correct.
viewed? All right. Did he tell you that he was on site to observe it? To observe the handling of the asbestos, the flattening and the crushing that you described?
I don't recall if that came up. That question
And
came up.
object to the form.
I guess I just want to know who told you then that it was crushed in order to flatten it?
I don't recall. I don't recall when,
Okay.
if Mike had told me that or not. I don't recall.
Okay. You also said it was not friable. What is your educational background, sir? Your highest degree achieved, and what licenses do you have?
Check the form.
I have 3 college degrees. I have a bachelor's in civil engineering. I have a master's in civil environmental engineering, and I have an MBA degree, and I'm a licensed professional engineer.
All right. Do you know the definition of friable based on your educational background and experience?
Check to the form.
Same objection.
What does that mean?
I don't recall the exact definition as we sit here right now. I believe the term friable denotes a material that is easily airborne. When handled, fragments can become airborne.
Okay. And then, since you weren't there, who made the judgment that it was not friable? I'm talking about your report to City Council in the video we just looked at.
Based on the scenario that was presented to me and the explanation that I received from Dr. Weinstein, I believed that it was not friable.
Do you know whether or not, during the crushing and flattening process, whether this asbestos cement pipe was wetted down?
Object to the form.
I was told it was.
By who?
Mike Daniel is my recollection.
Does the city have records of this?
Check to the form.
I mean, does Mike Daniel keep notes? Does Mike Daniel keep a log book about his, observations?
Object to the form.
Pipe flattened, crushed on a particular day, water applied to the pipe. I mean, does the city keep that kind of
Object to the
records?
form.
There are daily log of activities on each of the projects. I'm not aware, or I have not reviewed the logs that were generated for the project.
Would Mike Daniel typically prepare such a log?
Object to
He
the form.
as well as the consulting engineer that's on the project.
Okay. And those would be public record at City Hall, is that right?
There'd be public records. I don't know if they're in City Hall.
If they were by Mike Daniel, they'd be at City Hall, right?
Not necessarily. He has
Where
a
else would they be?
in his construction trailer, in his office. His office is not at City Hall.
Okay. But it would be on it would be on city property.
That's correct.
All right. Are you familiar with NESHAP?
Not very familiar with it.
Okay. Does the city have an in-house expert on it?
An expert? No.
All right. Okay, I'm going to play video number 2.
Oh, sorry. He's butchering up the difference between stormwater
Thanks, Lou.
Butch Nealon, 764 Hernando Drive. I'd just like to confirm, Mr. Joel, that the pipe that's being removed is asbestos cement pipe.
The pipe that is being removed is, some of it is asbestos cement. Our drinking water system, island-wide, uses asbestos cement pipe. So the water that you drink today is conveyed to you through asbestos cement pipe. It is an acceptable material for drinking water conveyance. The asbestos does not come out of the pipe. It does not come out when you crush it, and it's not handled as a hazardous material.
Right, and that pipe is being removed and brought to the Glan property? And is it being crushed on the Glan property?
Some of it was crushed on Collier Boulevard. Some of it was removed and staged, and I believe it was crushed flat and then removed from the site.
Thank you.
And again, is that you responding to questions?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, you were asked whether asbestos cement pipe had been crushed, and you responded, some of it was crushed on Collier. Is that true?
That's what I said.
And is it true?
No, it's not.
Object to the form.
Okay. At the time you said it, did you think it was true?
At the time I said it, I thought, yes.
Okay. And where did you get your information? Let me pull that back. At the time, upon what did you base your conclusion that it was true?
I had observed pipe that was being removed and recycled. And I had assumed incorrectly that that was asbestos concrete pipe where it was stormwater pipe.
Okay. Who, how did you determine then that you were wrong?
I inquired the next morning of Mike Daniels if what I saw was correct, and he informed me that I was incorrect, and I informed the city manager that I had made a misstatement the previous evening.
Okay. And then you said some of it was removed, crushed flat, and then removed, crushed flat, and removed from the site. Some of it being asbestos cement pipe. Was that a correct statement at the time?
Object to the form.
The material that I thought was asbestos cement pipe that I was being observed turned out to not be asbestos cement pipe. What I was observing was stormwater pipe being handled in that manner. So my statement to council was an error, and that's why I went to the city manager the next morning when I verified for Mike that what I saw occur was not asbestos pipe, but it was concrete stormwater pipe. And that's when the city manager put out a statement that I'd misspoken.
Okay. I want to know if you put out a statement. Did you reduce to writing that you had misspoken and explained the reasons?
I
why
went directly to his office and I advised him, and he said then we need to put out a statement, and it was written. I don't recall if I think the city manager wrote it. I reviewed it before it was sent out. I believe I reviewed it. I'm pretty sure I did. I don't recall right now, but I'm pretty sure I did.
But you don't recall putting anything in writing?
No, I just...
You just went to the city manager? That's it?
I confirmed the next morning what I said, and I was advised I was totally wrong. I walked right into the city manager's office and told him that I misspoke last night, and explained to him what I observed was not asbestos cement pipe, but other than stonewater pipe, and the statement was created.
Why didn't you, Rony Joel, the person who made the statement, why didn't you put it in writing and distribute it, saying, you know, what you just said here, I was wrong? Don't you think that could have avoided a lot of trouble?
Object to the form.
Join.
I did what I thought was proper, to walk directly to the city manager's office and advised him that I'd made a mistake.
Okay. I mean, would you sign an affidavit today stating under penalties of perjury, based on your personal observation, that you were wrong and that was not asbestos cement pipe that you were? Would you do that?
I would do it
Check
right
the
now.
form.
Object to the form, and he's under oath
Yeah, absolutely.
at this point, so
But you really can't state on personal knowledge, can you, what it contained, because you weren't there? You're relying on what Mike Daniel told you. Isn't that right?
You're asking, I observed something, which is what I presented to City Council, that I observed an occurrence. My mistake was that I thought it was asbestos concrete pipe when it was not. So my statement was correct in the sense of I observed something occurring, but what I was observing, what I had assumed to be asbestos concrete pipe was not asbestos concrete pipe, it was stonewater concrete pipe. And that's what I told the city manager.
And your source of information was Mike Daniel.
object to the form.
Is that right?
Yeah, I went to him and said, is that what I saw? And he goes, no, that was not asbestos, that was concrete pipe. So,
Do you know what qualifies Mr. Daniel to make such an evaluation?
yes, I
Object to the
think
form.
he will tell you that he worked for the Deltona Corporation installing most of the asbestos concrete pipe on the island. So I think he has first-hand knowledge of what it is, how it is, and how to handle it.
Okay. Do you have first-hand knowledge?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Are you familiar with a company by the name of AMRC?
Yes, I am.
All right. How did you first become familiar with that company?
I had called two firms, if my recollection is correct, and asked them if they had in-house expertise, local expertise to help us with addressing the issue of asbestos and asbestos concrete pipe.
And when was that?
Oh, I don't recall when that was, but I would. It had to be at the time that the issue of asbestos concrete pipe became a public issue.
Okay. All right. In fact, do you remember reading about CARES announcing that that they had hired a company to take some samples and do some analysis, and that was reported to the paper? Do you recall reading about that in the press?
I don't recall that article.
Okay. Do you recall the issue, though? Do you recall hearing about that CARES had made an allegation that there was asbestos cement pipe on the island and that they had hired somebody to test it and that those test results were reported? Do you recall the issue? I'm not asking you necessarily if you recall the article.
Object to the form.
I don't recall the statement that, I don't recall what you just said.
Okay. What do you recall in that regard? Anything?
That there was an allegation made by, and I don't recall if it was by CARES or by you, the attorney, that there was asbestos cement pipe throughout the island.
Okay. And it was very quickly after that you contacted AMRC?
I did not contact AMRC.
Who did? Who did?
I had contacted the two consulting firms. One is Cantress and McKee, and then I contacted Seatstorm Hill to identify if they would be able to help, since I knew both of them had capability. They'd indicated that there were two firms that specialized in the area. One was AMRC, and I don't recall the other firm. And I'd asked if they were familiar with them, specifically CDM. Then asked them if they would call on our behalf to see if they would be able to help us.
Okay. Did you have any direct communications with AMRC prior to that firm being retained by the city?
Yes.
You did, okay. Who did you speak to there? Do you remember?
Yeah, I spoke to Jack, forgot his last
Snyder?
name. Snyder.
Okay. Speak with him more than once, or just once, or how many times did you speak with him?
Multiple times.
Multiple times, okay. And did Mr. Snyder, in the course of any of those conversations, ever mention that he had done asbestos sampling, that he had in fact just done asbestos sampling for CARES?
Object to the form.
He at the first time he called me, he advised me that he was. This is my recollection, that he had. He actually thought that he was working for the city because you, the attorney, had led him to believe that you were doing the sampling on behalf of the city, and that he had sent someone to your office to pick up a sample, transport it for analysis. He did not do the sampling. He advised me that he sent that sample to a lab and then gave you a report. I specifically asked him that would it be a conflict of interest if he would work for the city. He said he would call me back. He called me back. He said he had spoken to his counsel. He called me and said that his counsel has advised him that it's not a conflict of interest. I then proceeded to say, well, if it's not, we would like to meet with you. At the first meeting we had with him, the first question that I asked in front of others is, can you confirm that this is not a conflict of interest for you to work for the city, having done what you've done for Mr. Gold? And he said no, so we proceeded with our meeting and engaging him.
Okay. What were the financial terms of the engagement?
Oh, I don't recall. It was based on an hourly rate, and I don't recall the hourly rate.
Do you have you seen an invoice submitted? Do you recall?
It was, I recall a $2,500 invoice, and I recall, I think a $5,000 invoice, but I don't recall full. I recall those. I don't recall for what period of time that was. I just don't recall right now. They provided us with a standard billing rate, and I think Jack's rate was like, well, I'm going to guess, but I don't recall, but it was less than $100 an hour, I think. And he gave us a schedule of all of his people.
Do you know a Tim Jacobson?
That name does not ring a bell.
Okay. Is AMRC still working for the city?
They're on retainer, and yes.
Okay.
Mr. Gold, can we take a break in a moment or two?
I'd
I'd like to use the restroom.
We,
So I'd
we
like
don't
to-
even have to wait that. We'll take the break right now.
Thank you very much.
All right.
The time is 4:14 PM. Back on the record, the time is 4:21 PM.
Okay, Madam Court Reporter, if you'd be so kind as to read the last question and answer, just so we know where we left off.
Question, do you know what Tim Jacobson? Answer, that name does not ring a bell. Question, is ARMC still working for the city? Answer, they're on retainer, yes.
Oh. You mentioned that Mr. Snyder told you that he had consulted with his attorney and was told there was no conflict of interest. Is that correct?
That's what I stated.
Yeah. Did you make any determination whether there would be a conflict of interest on the part of the city?
Object to the form.
No.
Did you ask anybody?
No.
Okay.
I advised the city manager before executing the contract of the statement that AMRC had identified that there was no conflict of interest on their part, and therefore recommended that we move forward.
Okay. All right, now going back to the video where you indicated you'd misidentified the pipe. Now the pipe that you observed, that you misidentified, do you recall what the approximate diameter of the pipe was that you observed?
I know, I'm trying to think. I don't know if it was 16-inch. I don't recall if it was 12, 16, 18-inch. I don't recall. I mean, it was.
Was it in that range?
It was in. I'm going to say. I'm trying to visualize it. I would say 18-inch, 8 maybe. I don't. It wasn't small diameter. It was. I don't think it was 24. If I was going to guess, 18 maybe. I don't. It was not small. It wasn't.
Was it like 6 feet?
No, it wasn't.
5 feet, 4 feet?
It wasn't. It was 8. It was in the 18 to 24 inch range, if my recollection is correct.
Okay.
But I don't know.
What is the typical diameter for storm drains?
Object to the
It
form.
varies from 12 to, I believe, you see, the old ones, I don't recall what the old ones were, but I think it was from 12-inch to 48-inch in the old system.
Okay. going to introduce this printout from, we can get another copy. We'll get another copy. Don't worry, it's on the web. Common questions on the asbestos NESHAP published by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. And according to this document, it was printed from their website on 9/25/2006. So we're on Exhibit C, I believe.
see that?
Yep, pass it around. Not to ask you to read the whole thing, I just want to draw your attention to this question. Frequently asked questions. Does non-friable waste, if broken, damaged, etc., have to be wetted and contained? And then it says, non-friable ACM that has been damaged during a demolition or renovation operation, such that some portions of the material are crumbled, pulverized, or reduced to powder, is covered by the asbestos NESHAP if the facility contains more than the threshold amount of RACM, regulated asbestos containing material. However, and I added that full length there to explain what the acronym was. However, Category 2 non-friable ACM that has a high probability of being damaged by the demolition or renovation forces expected to act on the materials such that it will be crumbled, pulverized, or reduced to powder, must be removed prior to the demolition or renovation operation. It is the owner or operator's responsibility to make these determinations. Were you aware of that policy before I just read that to you?
Object to the form and lack of foundation.
Join the objection to the form.
Was I aware of the policy? I was aware that to properly handle asbestos concrete pipe, you need to wet it down before you crush, pulverize it, as stated.
And in all cases, was that done on Marco Island this year?
Object
And in
to the
2005?
Object to the
Object to
form.
the form.
I'm not aware that it was not done.
Does the city maintain records as to whether or not it was done?
I am not aware if the consultant or Mike Daniels kept records of every activity that was being undertaken by the contractor every minute of the day.
Do you know what the record-keeping requirements of the law are?
Object to the form.
Object to the form.
No.
And
I have no first...
calls for legal conclusion.
Yeah.
I mean, it is your job to have a basic knowledge of the regulations, isn't that right?
No, it's my...
Object to the
res-
form.
Whose job is it if not yours?
It is my responsibility to
form.
ensure that we have the appropriate resources available to make those decisions. Our consultant engineers, we rely on them to advise us if what is required.
The city does not do any of that in-house in
Object to the
terms of determining what regulations need to be followed. Is that your
Object-
testimony with respect to asbestos cement pipe?
Object to the form, and it mischaracterizes his testimony.
Could you repeat that question? Because I was not listening.
Question, the city does not do any of that in-house in terms of determining what regulations need to be filed. Is that your testimony with respect as to asbestos cement pipe?
It's my
Poorly
testimony.
constructed question, I'll withdraw.
Same
Even I will
Same.
admit that one. Okay, we're getting to the end of the day, we're going to bring that question back and re-ask it. Okay. To what extent was it the city's responsibility to be aware of the regulations governing the handling of asbestos cement pipe?
Object to the form.
Join the objection.
It is my opinion that it is our consultants' responsibility, because we specifically require them to identify all of the requirements to which the contractor must comply with, and incorporate those within the bidding documents.
Do you delegate that entirely? That meaning evaluation of regulations governing asbestos cement pipe, do you delegate that entirely to your consultant?
Object to the form.
We rely upon our consultants to tell us what appropriate regulations are applicable to the work to be done.
Do you ever make those calls in-house without the use of the consultant?
Object to the form.
I don't recall ever having made that decision without consultation of the consultant on any permit.
So it has been a joint
regulation.
process between you and the consultant, is that what I'm hearing?
Object to the
Object to
form.
The consultant make recommendations if we are aware that there is a specific permit required. We're aware of it based on previous experience, but as it relates to any specific thing that has to occur within the contract documents, the consultant is responsible for identifying all of the appropriate permits and identifying all the appropriate regulations that the contractor needs to adhere to.
Have you been trained in any environmental, have you ever studied as part of any formal education or certification program any promulgated environmental regulation?
Yes.
Okay. What about regulations specifically pertaining to asbestos cement pipe?
No.
Okay, Mr. Joel. Have you ever been convicted of a crime?
No.
Are you currently taking any medications which would affect your ability to testify accurately here today?
No.
I asked that of everybody, so don't.
I was going to
You're
make
not being
I was
singled
going
out.
to make a
Don't, no, this is not the time to do that. Let's see. Have you ever been yourself, individually, and I'm not including this lawsuit or any lawsuit having to do with a governmental litigation where you may have been named in an individual capacity, but purely private occurring, involving Rony Joel, have you ever been a party to a lawsuit?
Yes.
And more than one?
Only one.
Okay, tell me about the one that you were a party to.
In 1978, plus or minus 3 years, I signed a contract to acquire a house. Soon after that, we had a major family issue where we were unable to continue with executing the house acquisition, and we offered to relinquish the deposit, and the owner of the house sued us for additional funds.
Okay. Have you ever been deposed before?
Yes, I have.
More than once?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes.
Okay, tell me today, when was the last time you were deposed and what did that matter involve?
I was deposed on a federal labor wrongful dismissal case in 1980, no, early 90s.
And where was that lawsuit filed?
That was, it was filed in West Virginia. I was in Pittsburgh then, and I was asked a plant manager was terminated by city council, and he brought a wrongful termination suit against city council, and I was deposed as to the technical capability of the individual to execute his job.
Okay. Any other depositions?
Yes, but I am totally blank mentally on when that occurred. I thought it was fairly recently. But
Do you remember the subject matter?
no, I have drawn a complete blank. Wasn't I deposed as part of the other lawsuit you brought up? The civil suit?
Actually, we
Didn't you?
no. Actually, we haven't conducted depositions there. But I'll tell you what.
Oh, what was that?
Let's not even get into it any
Okay.
further because you've told me enough, and I'm through.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Mr. Joel, my name is Stan Bunner. I represent Quality Enterprise. I just have a couple questions for you. If I understood your testimony, you stated that you personally witnessed Quality Enterprise employees crushing some sort of pipe on Collier Boulevard. Is that correct?
That's my recollection, yes.
Okay. And as you sit here today, do you have any personal knowledge as to what type of pipe that was you saw crushed?
Do I have any personal knowledge? What I thought it was, I was told was not, so I don't know how if that's personal knowledge or not. When I looked at the pipe, I thought it was one thing, but I was corrected that it was another type of pipe.
Right.
So
then, would you say you have personal knowledge as you sit here today as to what type of pipe it was? You have testified as to what type of pipe it was not.
okay, well, it was. I believe that it was a concrete pipe,
Okay.
storm sewer pipe.
Did you at any time witness any Quality Enterprises personnel on Collier Boulevard flattening pipe?
No.
Did you ever at any time witness any Quality Enterprises personnel crushing pipe at Site A?
I see them. I saw pipe being put into a grinder, but I don't recall actually crushing.
Okay. How many times did you observe that?
Probably once.
Okay. As you sit here today, do you have any personal knowledge as to what type of pipe that was?
That was the concrete cylinder pipe, which was large diameter, like 48 inch. I mean, it was large pipe.
Okay. Do you remember anything else about the pipe you saw crushed?
Well, there was some rebar, but there was a rebar adjacent, but I don't recall if that came from that pipe or not.
Okay. Do you have any recollection of ever having observed Quality Enterprises personnel flattening any pipe at Site A?
No.
Okay. Who is Mike Daniel?
Mike Daniel is the construction manager for the city.
And does he report to you?
Yes, he does.
Okay. Does he have any other supervisor to whom he reports?
No, he only reports to me.
Okay. What are Mr. Daniel's duties as construction manager for the city with regard to this project on South Collier Boulevard?
He's to review pay requests and make determinations if the quantities that are being requested for payment are accurate, and generally oversee the relationship between the contractor and our citizens to ensure that there is good communications.
Okay. Does he have any other duties?
He does attend the construction management meeting. He does review and approve the installation of different aspects of the project before they go into the next phase in conjunction with our consultant.
Okay. He approves, I'm sorry, what did you say?
Okay, like he will validate that the specific density has been achieved.
Okay. Okay. Among his duties, does he monitor the progress of the work?
As he does progress, as it moves forward, yes.
Okay. And does he actually monitor, I mean, literally, does he go out and observe the work as it's being conducted? Is that part of his duties?
Part of the time, but not full time.
Okay. To your knowledge, did he ever instruct Quality Enterprises as far as how to conduct any work?
No.
Okay.
Excuse me, let me make sure I answer the question. Could you ask the question again?
To your knowledge, did he ever instruct Quality Enterprises as far as how to conduct any work?
To my knowledge, he has not directed Quality on how to perform its work.
Okay. That's all I have.
Let me ask just one question. Mr. Joel, have you instructed Quality on how to do their work?
No.
Has anybody at the city instructed Quality on how to do its work?
No. If the bid documents lay out what needs to be done within what guidelines they need to be done, but we leave the means and methods of construction and how to get that accomplished within the guidelines, within the documents, up to the contractor.
Even if you notice something's going wrong, you won't intervene?
Well, if obviously you would become aware that they're doing something contrary to the contract documents, we would intervene.
Objected to the form of that
And with
question.
respect to asbestos cement pipe, and the project on South Collier and Site A, Site C, Site B, all sites. Did anybody ever instruct Quality Enterprises, anybody from the city, ever instruct Quality Enterprises that they were doing anything wrong?
Object to the form.
Or
Join.
ever tell them that they were doing anything wrong?
Join the discussion.
Objection to the form.
Well, no one that I am aware of has advised Quality that they have done anything wrong.
And is it your belief that they've done everything right?
Object to the form.
To this date, I have not. It has not come to my attention that they've done anything wrong.
Okay. Who instructed Quality Enterprises to move pipe from Site A to Site C?
The city.
So the city has instructed Quality Enterprises before.
You said, have
Object
they
to the
instructed
form.
them to do anything wrong? That's not what you asked. You asked, did we instruct them to do anything wrong?
But that's a means or method, isn't it?
Okay.
Object to the form.
We requested that Quality move concrete pipe from one location to another location. That's what we asked them to do,
And they did, right?
and they did.
Do you know who cut and mulched the trees?
Yes.
Who?
Quality Enterprise did as a donation to the city. We needed the site cleared for storage of material, and we had solicited quotations from the contractors. It was in excess of what we had budgeted, is my recollection. So we approached Quality and asked them if they would donate their service to remove the trees and mulch the trees.
Any other requests that the city has made of Quality Enterprises regarding administration of a contract?
Object to the form.
Any other requests?
Of any contract?
Object to the form.
I don't understand what you're asking. Has Quality...
Well, somebody requested, you've said that it was the city that requested them to cut and mulch the trees. You said it was the city that requested them to move pipe from Site A to Site C. Any further requests made of the city of Quality Enterprises?
Object to the form.
We asked Quality to do anything
Anything else?
else. I don't recall us asking them to do anything that was not in the contract. Yes. During the hurricane, we asked Quality to stage their equipment away from the construction site, so they did that. We also asked Quality if they would loan us one of their pieces of equipment during the hurricane so we could clear the streets so our citizens can get back after Hurricane Wilma. So they did provide us with a front-end loader. They did, and I frankly don't recall if they invoiced us for that or not. I don't recall that, but I recall asking them to stage all of their equipment high up on in the high grounds because we were expecting an 8 to 10 foot surge, and we were concerned about having a significantly larger area to clear, and they also volunteered to do that. I don't believe they invoiced us for that, and they also provided us McDaniel with a large front-end loader. And I don't recall if we asked them to do anything else. That was outside the scope of the contract.
Sure, that was very nice.
And we asked other contractors as well.
Okay, sure. I mean, tell me this, I mean, if the contractors are in control of the means and methods, how do you handle a situation when a citizen, a taxpayer, a resident of Marco Island, calls the city and says, I don't like what this contractor is doing next to my house? Do you simply tell them, oh, we're not allowed to get involved in the means or the methods?
Object to the form.
Well, how do you handle a situation like that?
Object to the form.
Well, we assess to determine if the citizen excuse me, has a valid concern or not. And if they do, we then meet with the contractor and request if they would, if it's reasonable, to modify the means and method. And if it's unreasonable, then they don't. If it is reasonable, they do.
That's it?
Nothing further?
At this time, Mr. Joel, you have the right to read or waive the deposition transcript for its accuracy, for spellings, etc. It is my recommendation that you read.
Yeah, I'd like to read it, please.
Okay.
That concludes the deposition of Rony Joel. The time is 4:52 p.m.